Welcome to Magic Club. I'm Andrew Main, joined by Mr. Jordan Gold.
Hello.
And live from somewhere else, Mr. Elliot Terrell. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you guys? Thanks for having me on.
Dude, excited to have you on. For those of you that don't know, who live somewhere in a cave underneath a rock, Elliot is the director of Art of Magic, and he also does the podcast Magical Thinking, where he brings in a variety of different people to talk about magic, talk about thinking. He's not just magicians, but people like Larry Fong, who's a cinematographer, who, by the way, I just saw Kong Skull Island, which Larry worked on. Beautiful, beautiful movie, and Larry's a great magician, too, so it's neat that you talk to a lot of different people in depth about magic, and I think the things that relate to it. Is that an honest description?
Yes, absolutely, and thank you for listening.
Yeah, so artofmagic.com, you can check that out. You guys, certainly, I would consider you part of this movement that's really elevated magic out of sort of the novelty dime store, sort of squirting nickel, which I love, by the way, and sort of just really treat it as an art in doing so. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about that as we get into the show, but I'm going to start off with some news. This just was breaking as we started to record. Mr. Criss Angel passes out in the middle of his show. Now, for those who've never seen his show, one of the kind of the big things that he does there from an escape point of view is he does an upside down straitjacket escape over the audience, and it's a really cool bit of presentation. I've seen it, sat underneath it, and I actually it's really, really cool the way he does it. It's a very dramatic presentation of it and extremely physical. Apparently, Chris said that, lack of sleep, poor eating, whatever, maybe being a Vegas magician, who knows what else contributed to that. He passed out in the middle of it, had to be rushed to the hospital. And this happens at sort of the start of the show. Fast, what is the most scary, dangerous thing that's happened to either one of you guys in a show?
Jordan, you're first.
Yep. I'm first. Okay. The most dangerous trick I used to do was the shattered, like the smash and stab thing, as far as a dangerous presentation. But that method is not dangerous at all. I mean, there's no way that you're going to hurt yourself other than, maybe a shard of glass, because there is some broken glass in there. In college, I had a guillotine head chopper thing, but it was 100% safe. I like Penn Jillette's theory about danger, which is that it doesn't have to actually be dangerous to be presented as dangerous, and vice versa. Well,
but certainly I would say this is a case where the peril wasn't that he was going to actually drop, it was just the middle of this physical thing. He passed out, which is something I can relate to, having done the straitjacket escape, and I've done it with ropes and upside down and whatnot, but there are some times, though, where you're upside down and you do feel that moment of like, oh, man, I didn't work out before or whatever. I've been out of shape, and all of a sudden this is going to cause it. So you've never had anything go wrong, never had anything physically go wrong, ever?
Not that I can recall. Maybe like a coin, like I was hiding it somewhere I don't know how to say this without giving away the secret, but there's been a couple times where like I tried to muscle pass a coin into my mouth and it hit my tooth.
Close-up guys. Jesus. That's the problem. Close-up guys. Like, the Joker fell on my toe. Oh. So, that
the Joker's really heavy. It was a double.
Elliot?
For me, the most dangerous thing was not actually a trick that I was performing. It was a situation in which I was performing. When I was busking, I was on a street corner during an art crawl around some of the local museums. And it was sort of a beer crawl. I'm from Louisiana, so most people just drink in the streets, on a Tuesday.
Of course.
And it happened to be a Tuesday. So they were drinking in the streets, doing this beer crawl. And I was busking. And one of my heroes was Gazzo when I was doing that kind of thing. And so it was very ballsy as like a young person standing on a street corner, smacking the table and yelling at belligerent drunks. And one guy almost got physical with me. Luckily, there was a police officer nearby. His girlfriend, who was being very loud and drunk, was interrupting my show, and I called her out for being the worst, and he was not happy with that. So my life was not in danger, really, but it was pretty spooky. I got to get adrenaline. Made the show great. I got a wonderful hat.
Bring them back every time. I've had I used to go do when I was working on my trying to do more comedy magic, getting away from illusions. I would go with these stand-ups to these open mic nights in some of the scariest places you can imagine. Like we'd literally be like a beachfront bar, and by I mean a beachfront bar is there'd be the hotel, be the bar, the windows or the doors are wide open. There's the sand blowing in, and like the people who are they're drunk is getting drunk. And we would get, stand-up we were doing there, non-responsive people, had to pull people apart, the comedians and the patrons from getting into fights. That was always kind of intense. And then, being an illusion guy when I first started out, always like, man, like I remember I dropped a case on my toe when I was in my friend Rand Woodbury's warehouse, like literally lost the toenail. That was exciting. Having to feed a cougar, terrifying. That was really close up. I guess you don't really have that problem.
I remembered two things listening to your guys' danger stories.
Jordan, I want to jump in real quick and make a cougar joke. In close up, cougars are a big problem for me anyway. Okay, go ahead, Jordan.
That's true. I've actually encountered that in your close up shows. You've been almost mauled several times by cougars. So early on, I had one of those old finger flint flashers, the ones that are like beige metal, like sheet steel, whatever, spring steel. And I loaded it with like a bunch of flash cotton and flash paper and sparkle powder and all this stuff, all the fun stuff that I had. And I was like at a community college hanging out, in high school, some class, and I thought this would be the moment to do it. And I went to flash it, and it sort of sprung down and then catapulted up this wad of paper that ignited in midair. So basically this fireball of like sparkle powder. And for those of you that don't know about sparkle powder, it's like powdered titanium, and it is actually dangerous because flash paper kind of just poofs out. It's hard to ignite anything, but sparkle powder is like these little pieces of fire that just rain down, and this fiery, sparkly ball just is launching towards this lady's face, and right before it gets to her, it just explodes and goes out. And she's like delighted because she thought it was just magic. So she's like, ooh, and I'm sitting there going, oh, I almost killed this lady. Like I almost lit her on fire. That was one of the last times I really messed around with a lot of fire stuff.
I had when I was in high school, I decided I wasn't nerdy enough being into magic and science. I joined the Renaissance Club. So I'm dressed as, guess what, a wizard. And we're doing this presentation in this theater, in the darkened theater, and I have like my flash cotton, I'm lighting and throwing and all this. And I don't know what it was, but I had a handful of it, and it was like I'm a high school kid. I can only afford so much, so it's not like I had a lot of practice with it. And I remember watching this big wad in my hand, all of a sudden, all of it catching on fire. Now, I know this did not happen, but my memory is absolutely extremely vivid that there was a bright ball of fire and that I could see the bones, the outline of my hand as on the shadow on the wall, that I could see like this, the glow through my hand. I'm sure that did not happen, but it was a bright glow. Everybody's like, what's this? And it was just, it singed. It's not fun.
Yep.
This isn't magic related, but I at once burned off my eyebrows and the tips of my eyelashes with some leftover fireworks. I don't have any flash paper stories, but I thought I would throw that in.
Yeah, to relate.
Yeah, I got to be careful with that.
So, in other news, South by Southwest rather just wrapped, and one of the movies that was premiered, there's the documentary about Richard Turner. So Richard Turner is a legendary card man. He's also a motivational speaker, and what makes Richard Turner very special is the fact that Richard Turner went blind at a young age, and he is a blind close-up magician and an exceptional magician. So now there's a documentary about him. They shot parts of the Magic Castle, and that's going to be out there for the world to get have a chance to experience this amazing part of our community. Either of you any of you guys seen Richard lately or recently, or?
He's at the castle about once or twice a year, and I always make sure to catch his show because, he's one of those guys that he can do all the technical stuff and he's entertaining, which is so rare. But it just as a card guy and just a magician, somebody who's in all the technical side of hand, just watching him, like the more you know, the more that you learn about the techniques that he's actually using, the farther down the rabbit hole you realize it goes. Like when you first see him, if you know nothing, you're like, oh, he's a great magician. And if you start realizing exactly what he's doing, you just stare at his hands, and it's more unbelievable in a way that he's able to accomplish these things so flawlessly. Would you agree, Elliot?
I absolutely. I've never seen him live, but his card cheating videos were some of the things that I used to learn how to second and bottom and Greek and center, and yeah, I love it.
You have to see him live. You have to see him when he's at the castle next.
I know. We'll go together.
Come up and see him. It's amazing.
The idea that you're learning your second and your bottom deals from a blind man is amazing.
On video, no less. It's like it's not even like I'm there. I'm watching a blind man on video do impossible sleight of hand.
I remember I was talking to some people about a project, and it was a production company, and I remember they telling me the story, like, we had this blind magician come in here and he did the most amazing things and all this. And I didn't say I knew who it was or anything at that point, because I just wanted to hear their experience. Because once you say, oh yeah, so-and-so, people sort of, they don't want to tell you the whole experience. And it was great listening to them. And I'm like, oh, that sounds like Richard Turner. He's amazing. But it was neat. And it's trying to explain, like, yeah, you think he's neat. You should see how we think when we see this guy. Because it's even, as Jordan pointed out, you're like going, holy cow, that's just so, it's like Rene Levon and how he would think through, how do you misdirect with one hand? People always, oh, misdirection. It's like, well, look over here, this hand's you're doing here. Like, hey, one of the most brilliant routiners in the world was a guy who worked with one hand. So amazing what you can do when you apply yourself and you're really smart and skillful. Those other two things help.
Well, and he's also a black belt.
Yeah.
Like a secondary black belt, I think.
Yeah, I don't want to test him on that either.
That's what I'm saying. Well,
he's got a really interesting. He's got a really interesting take on practicing. Actually, I think we posted it on our blog a while back. If you don't mind the shameless plug, but it's the idea that you learn something, and he's using the second deal as an example. You learn something and you do like diligent practice of that move over and over again, very slowly for like an hour. And then once you've got sort of that slow muscle memory down, then you turn your brain off and you just go through it and you do it 1,000 times. And then you come back to it and now you know what it's like and you do the diligent practice again so that you can fix all the things that you developed in that 1,000 or so. And then that's how you sort of revise over time your technique, which I think is fascinating.
That's great. And we can talk about a little bit more about that too, and love to hear some of your technique. We'll do that in the secret session because you've got some really good insights into the pass. And that's one of the moves we have not covered yet. I mean, we're just starting off. There's a lot of moves we haven't, but that's a great, all-powerful sort of move, and excited to hear your thoughts on that. So those of you who don't know, there's two parts to this podcast. This is Magic Club, and then this is what's on YouTube. And if you want to support Magic Club, make it happen, go to patreon.com/Magic Club, and you can support the podcast. And what will happen is you'll get access to the secret sessions where we go into deeper details, we explain moves, we do stuff you're probably not going to find online, in any sort of public forum. It's more of just a couple of guys or people sitting around a table, sharing stuff, sharing some things. I've had a wonderful experience so far, just, both from what Blake and Simon have shared us that within our past guests, what Jordan's taught me. And then it's fun because sometimes somebody will show something and then somebody else will say, hey, what about this? And we're actually seeing kind of like a real jam session. So check us out at patreon.com/Magic Club, and we'll, give you you'll get the secret access to the other part of that. Meanwhile.
So Elliot, is that a rubber band trick? Because, I love rubber bands, so I'm not super familiar.
I developed a trick called the pass for rubber bands just because I was coming on the show. In the hour between you asking me to come on and doing it, I developed a whole rubber band routine.
See?
That's perfect.
This is what you can expect here. Well, it's not easy being a magician sometimes and trying to find materials, find things to work with, to find the resources you need. We can all relate to that. Like, was there ever a book or something you as a kid that you really wanted, or a video you desired? Either one of you? Like, for me, it was like the Paul Osborne plans. Like, I wanted all of those, all the big illusion plans, and then Steinmeier's books. I had to have those, and that'd be the thing that I'd save up for, whatever to get.
For me, there was a couple of things. it started with individual tricks. You go to Magic Shop and they show you Scotch and soda, and then Lethal Tender, and you can't have both. And you're like, oh man, well I'll go with the one. But then you're always thinking about that other one where it changed into the coin. I gotta go back and get it. So I sort of lusted after some of the tricks that were demoed to me that I couldn't get at the time. And then there were a lot of DVDs and books and tapes back in the day that came in sets. So you've got Card College, you've got the Jeff McBride Manipulation, you've got Michael Amar's. So I think one of my very first videos was Michael Amar's Easy to Master Card Miracles, and it's like volume 1 of 6, and you're sitting there going, oh, there's so much good stuff on here. You just want the rest of them, and that's how it started for me. What about you, Elliot?
Well, so there are two things. One of them was the Di Vernon Ultimate Book of Magic. So it was like all those books in that huge, thick volume. So that one was something that I went to Daytona Magic at Daytona Beach in Florida and saw it up on the shelf. And I was like, I want that so bad. And then the other one, which came later, I actually have with me. And this is Hoffman's Modern Magic.
Oh, wow.
This is like an 1890-something edition of it. The reason I wanted this book so badly is when I was in high school, I got really into late night, and most of you probably don't know this. I grew up, literally, some of my first words were curse words because I grew up watching David Letterman's Late Show. And yeah, no kidding, I wore a suit every day as a child, and my dad, for my 4th birthday, it's my first memory, my dad built a stage for me to put in my room so that I could do monologues and like mock interview people as a 4-year-old.
You turned the air really down low, cold like a studio. You were smoking cigars in between
Yes,
takes.
exactly. Yeah. So I Letterman was an influence, and then because Letterman's hero was Johnny Carson, in high school I got into Johnny Carson big time, and that followed through in college. And there was it's like the PBS Master Series, American Master, something like that. There's one on Johnny Carson, and it's narrated by Kevin Spacey. I highly recommend. It's on Netflix, or I think it is. I highly recommend you guys watch that because it's phenomenal. But Carson was a magician, and his first book was Hoffman's Modern Magic. And so I watched that, and I was so obsessed with Johnny that I was like, I got to get this book. And I went on eBay, and I found this sexy old copy, and I got it once I could afford it. But yeah, this for me was like, this is probably one of my favorite possessions.
That's awesome. I am a huge Johnny Carson fan, and I actually did a program in high schools using magic to teach critical thinking that Johnny Carson sponsored.
What?
Yep. So.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's the coolest thing in the world.
That was because I'd been doing it. He found out about it through a friend, and then they made it possible so I could do that. Turned it into a regular gig thanks to Johnny, because Johnny loved magic, he loved science. He found out I was doing this, and so I never met him, but he sponsored that program I did. So I'm always very, very grateful for him and what he did with that. So.
Wow. Well, last night at the Magic Castle, I was hanging out with Brian Gillis, who is Johnny Carson's favorite magician. So I'm once removed.
Dude,
in that regard.
Brian Gillis on The Tonight Show doing his I was always this big stage magic guy. I watched Brian Gillis on The Tonight Show, and I go, this is great. I swear to you, like a week later, it was like my birthday. My parents got me a short sleeve shirt and a vest like Brian Gillis, because I was like, well, this is a cool way to do close up. This I liked, Not that I had a problem with, Albert Goshman stained ties or whatever like that, but watching that was like Gillis on The Tonight Show, and then made me get much more into close-up magic.
Your parents clearly wanted you to be a close-up magician.
Oh my! They're running out of garage space, man. It was it's like maybe smaller props. So the reason I bring this up is the challenges of trying to these things we really want. Imagine you're a magician, I don't know, in like India, and you're trying to work on some high-level technique, and the next thing you know, the police come knocking on your door because you and the person you're working with, who maybe you're training in, the police are a little bit upset because they're like, hey, it's totally not cool that you're trying to do this sort of thing. You need to cut it out, and we're probably going to send you to jail because you're not supposed to steal dead bodies from graveyards to use in your sorcery experiments.
Right. That's as listed in Hoffman's Magic, right?
Yeah. Well, so the headline was Black Magician Student raid grave, take away woman's body. So I'm like, well, I need to parse this because this seems very racial. And then I realized, no, it's not a black magician. It is a magician, black being the evil kind of magic.
The type of magic.
I see.
Yeah, and so like you go to Times of India, there literally is you click on topic black magician, and you get a lot of links to black magician stuff, and it's scary. Things about human sacrifice. 16 black magicians nabbed separately in Hyderabad. And they're involved in sorcery and etc. Bengaluru, IT capital or black magic capital. Black magician wife held with decomposed body of woman. So,
yeah, black magic really freaks me out. Like super hardcore, it rustles all my jimmies. I hate New Orleans for that reason because of the voodoo nonsense down there. It just makes my skin crawl. I
had a friend that went to New Orleans because he was super into Anne Rice and vampire stuff, and he was a magician. And he came back with these stories about how he saw a girl he liked, and he did some magic for her on like a date. A couple days later, she stops talking to him. And then finally he corners her and he's like, what's going on? And she's like chain smoking her cigarettes like, I've been told by other people I need to stay away from you, that you're basically like the whatever phrase for like, you're a vampire or whatever. And she runs off and he goes and catches up with her friend in the bar and he's talking to her, but he has to use the restroom. So he leaves his glasses on the bar or whatever. He goes away and comes back like she's gone or whatever like that. And then she said, so he ran into her and she's like, well, isn't it weird how you just vanished in the middle of nowhere? It's like, I went to the restroom. And so he's telling us this. And my friend and I were like, dude, you need to get out of there soon because you're a jealous boyfriend away from like a wooden stake in your heart or something.
Seriously.
Which would be totally justified, right?
Yeah, I'm all
not only justified, but everybody around there would be okay with it probably. It's like, yeah, he was clearly a person of the night.
That's a topic I deal with in my my Jessica Blackwood books. Is an FBI agent. She's from a family of magicians going up against people believe in supernatural stuff or manipulate it, and kind of like dealing with those aspects of belief, because it doesn't matter if it ain't real. If somebody's gonna act on it, like dig up a body or whatever and do crazy stuff, that's kind of just scary. So,
yeah,
none of that in your past.
Not mine. I actively
refuses to admit it. To admit it. So on a different topic here, let's talk about the well-dressed elephant in the room, sir. Every time I've seen you look like you just stepped out of like GQ or whatever. You've got a very good sense. You've got a very good sense of style. And for a magician, it's a little bit weird, because we're kind of like.
Thank you, Andrew. I'm glad you think that way. It's so nice of you to say.
Well, Jordan, I just was trying to find the right opportunity and time to say that, But
you guys have a little moment here.
Yeah, for our audio listeners, Elliot, how would we describe what you're wearing here?
Just I don't know. I'm wearing a blue sport coat and a navy button-down shirt.
I could never mix those kinds of blue.
Silk pocket. You can't mix that.
I would never be able to successfully mix that. I would be like, it works. It works really well, sir. So, this is kind of I'd say it's a little bit of your trademark, right?
I hope so. Right. I'm trying.
So this started when you were a little kid, is you were trying to emulate David Letterman.
Yeah, pretty much. It started then, and all my parents were just positive that I was a little gay boy, which would be fine.
Yeah,
even though I'm from Louisiana.
And that was even before the magic, right? That was just with the suits.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you're wearing suits. Well, clearly he's gay, not because you're wearing.
Well, I was very effeminate.
Right. Okay.
Also. I could show you pictures.
No
You would
son of
understand.
mine's gonna wear a suit.
Yeah. No, it wasn't the suit. It was a lot of things. But I hated being dirty. I was very clean and well spoken at a young age. So
Yeah, in Louisiana,
Anyway.
that's you pretty much might as well be shipping off to West Hollywood right there. That's just
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And yes, you're making my point for me. So it started then, and then I kind of grew up, and when I hit puberty, I gained a bunch of weight, and then I was like the tubby kid, and my self-esteem crashed, and
how unlike most magicians.
right. And I
Never
got
heard
really
this story before in my life.
I got really mean and angry, and things started to turn around near the end of high school because I was making my own money, and I was like, I don't have anything to spend this on except magic stuff, and I already have 2,000 decks of cards. I think I'm good for a hot minute. What can I buy? And I was like, well, I'm going to college here. I'm going to try and reinvent myself because the person I am now is kind of gross. So I kind of inched into fashion that way, and it was awful at first. I was just buying things and trying things out, and that's you kind of have to do that unless you have somebody there to show you kind of the right way to do it, which I didn't. And so, a lot of you can go on my Instagram from like my freshman year of college. It's like down at the very bottom. You can see me posting little fashion outfit pictures, and they're not good. They're okay.
I'm excited to go
So-
check that out. Actually,
If I'm ever asked by advice for like younger magicians or whatever, and I'm like, well, if you're doing this to meet girls, let me tell you the two things you need to do. You don't even need the magic. Is one, confidence. Fake it.
Yep.
Pretend you're confident. Girls love confidence. They love confident guys. It's the number one thing they like. Confidence with a sense of humor, a good one. Learn to dress better. I have friends like, oh, what do I do? It's like you're literally wearing a members only jacket unironically. Not there's anything wrong with that, but we're entering in this world where people are very superficial, and particularly when it comes between the genders and stuff, and how we do these evaluations and stuff. And and I talk to some girls, and I would notice they could tell you about a guy's shoes or whatever like that. And also, like, if you try to play to that, you'll get that. But there is a certain I noticed the better I dressed, the better I did when it came to meeting girls. And
Yeah, absolutely.
It's also kind of a sign of just how well put together you are. The idea of how you sense that, and that certainly translates into magic. And I can recall going to see a pretty well known magician doing a stage show, and there was people working on the show, but his suit was wrinkled. I noticed it was a very wrinkly suit, and I'm like, you paid attention to every detail except for that, and it's just because it was just this, I don't know, it was just that sort of, that sign of that. And I think that it certainly is if you dress a little bit better, the perceptions are different. I learned that when I was 15 years old, and I was working at a movie theater, and I started showing up wearing in a tie. People would come to me before they'd go to the 40-year-old manager to ask questions
Yeah.
because of that.
Well, I get stopped in stores all the time. Do you work here? No, sorry. Go ahead, Jordan. I'm sorry.
also, there's something about magicians where a lot of them have really terrible fashion sense. Not just that they don't have a good fashion sense, but it's just these awful cheap ties with cards all over them, and not even like tasteful. Like, there are expensive ties out there that have those like gambling themes that are nicer, but it's just this sort of gravitation towards just really cheap, gaudy. I'm not sure where that comes from. I mean, I
think about that a lot, actually, because a lot of magicians that have to dress up. First of all, most people don't dress up very often, so they're already kind of uncomfortable doing it. And secondly, most people that dress up to do magic are probably doing walk around events. Otherwise, you're in like a costume for whatever you're doing, right? So when you're doing a walk around event, the biggest and scariest thing is approaching a new group. And so to kind of lessen that for themselves, they go, well, I want them to know immediately I'm the magician, so I have to stand out. All right. So they wear can I curse? And they wear the awful playing card necktie that should be immediately destroyed. And their clothes don't fit, probably because they don't wear them often. It's cheap material. And when you're performing for a clientele at which you are supposed to be well dressed, or for whom you're supposed to be well dressed, they're gonna notice that the material is cheap. They're gonna notice that your silk necktie is from JCPenney's. Like, if you're going to be performing for someone, so Tom Ford said it best, you dress well as a sign of respect to those around you. Mm-hmm. That's what it is you took the time to prepare yourself. You washed your face, you shaved or trimmed, you put on cologne and good deodorant, and not antiperspirant. Don't wear antiperspirant. Wear deodorant. Antiperspirant will ruin your clothes and mess up your skin. Just deodorant. You ironed what you were wearing. You put thought into your ensemble, therefore your character, therefore the magic that you're doing, and the interactions that you have with people. So, as you were saying, Andrew, it is kind of a superficial thing, but when people look at you and they go, "Oh, it makes sense. It's all put together." It's not even superficial as much as it is subconscious, that you just feel more at ease and you feel more comfortable with this person. So, if you're performing and you're wearing a suit, buy a good suit. That's what you should do first thing with the money that you get from your first and second and third gig, is do the best you can until you can do it right. Because then, you know what? You can inch your price up a little bit every single time because you'll be working for a nicer clientele.
True. I have a friend of mine who was a stylist who worked on my show and actually producing a project. We've got actually 2 fashion show projects. One's a fashion-related projects. Franco, and oh, by the way, best thing you can ever do is bring a gay wingman to a fashion show. And you're in a place with 100 beautiful women, and every one of them sees 99 other women they think are prettier than they are, so their self-esteem is maybe... Just
let me know when you want to go, Andrew. We'll go.
Set that up. I'm not sure which role who's playing there. Doesn't matter. Yeah. So, I mean, Franco's great. Franco's a great wing, but Franco's got these... He's one of these people who'll tell you, like, oh, go to this outlet store here. Go to this outlet there. He's really smart about, like, he can put together a really good ensemble, really good outfit or whatever by knowing where to go look, when to go look for the sales and stuff like that, because he's one of these people, like, you don't have to spend $1,000 on this. Just have a mind for it. And I have my friends who are tend to be very well-dressed. Anytime you're with them in a mall or whatever, they'll take a look through the store, they'll go take a look around and whatever. And rather than, like, I'm the kind of guy, like, I need to get something now, I'm going to go run out and, like, this is like a Burberry shirt that I just bought. Like, I need to get a shirt. I just ran into a mall. I'm like, I like it, whatever. Okay, this is a stupid amount of money to pay for a shirt. Whatever. Done. Problem solved. But if I had been more proactive.
Like regular people.
What's that?
Nothing. Go ahead.
No. There's a little bit of delay in Skype, so we'll talk over each other. It's not intentional, so don't worry. But yeah. So yeah, it's always just one of those things. Just keep an eye out on that, and then that's also kind of you. It's hard, like in Magic and character. It's like, I don't know what my character is. It takes a while to look at this over time, and when it comes to style, I know how I'll dress in different environments. I know that sometimes I went to a very kind of conservative sort of party on Saturday, so I dressed a little bit differently than I did. But if I go to maybe a little more hipper of an LA kind of party, I'll dress up a little bit better. I'll probably it's probably went out of fashion like 9 years ago, but I have a jacket with a hoodie that's like appropriate for some places like this, where I wouldn't wear a jacket, but I'll wear a hoodie jacket there because it's okay. Other places I wouldn't. So it's like I always try to be mindful of where I am and how I will be perceived. Well,
you want to hit the tone.
Yep.
Go ahead, Jordan.
So, Elliot,
yes.
Let's say I'm somebody that just I've got $100 that I spent on three suits for $100, and they're all awful colors. I'm going to go throw those away, and I'm ready to get some new suits. What are some either brands or stores or places you would recommend as a starting position for me to sort of get into this?
Well, first of all, it depends on your price range, because the biggest thing is you need to find a place. You just got to go and try on a bunch of different brands, right? You want to find something that fits your shoulders. Not every jacket fits the same. Every label makes a different fit. Every label has a different style. Hugo Boss is a very German. There's a lot of British influenced menswear. There's a lot of Italian influenced menswear. So you have to figure out kind of the style that you want, and you've got to go in and try stuff on to see how it fits your shoulders. Because if a jacket doesn't fit your shoulders, it doesn't matter. Nothing else is going to be right. You also have to look at yourself architecturally to kind of understand what points you need to accentuate or minimize, like if you have a big head or a small head or a long torso or a short torso. But my go-to, and thank you for asking, Jordan, my go-to and my favorite place to send people is Suit Supply. You can go to suitsupply.com, and these are extremely well-constructed suits. The brand is housed in the Netherlands, but they have stores all over the globe. Extremely well-constructed suits, traditionally constructed suits that are made in China, but they're done very well and finished by hand. But all of their fabrics are from Italy and from England, and some of the premier fabric houses and mills in the world. It's all great, sexy patterns. This is Suit Supply. Actually, this and this are Suit Supply. Practically my whole wardrobe is Suit Supply now. But they have different styles, so you can go in and you can say, this is kind of what I am. I'm doing life this way, and they can go, okay, well, I see, the kind of proportions and your body shape, and we can put you in something, and hopefully it'll work. And oftentimes it does. I mean, they cover a wide range of body type, and there's suits for every occasion. So go to Suit Supply. It's great for the price point. You're not going to get a better constructed suit for under $1,000 than this. And the suits range between $400 to $800. But it's the same construction and quality as a Dolce & Gabbana or Gucci or Hermes, anything like that. So I really love that brand.
Yeah, it's a very good
and then if you want to get some shoes to go with that suit, do you have any recommendations on those?
Yeah, Suit Supply's got great shoes. Antonio Morizzi is a label. It's a person. It's a house. They make great shoes. They actually make some for Suit Supply. If you need to go cheaper, then there are some great brands. JD Fisk is a pretty good brand. They make good shoes. The construction quality is not great, but they look good and they'll last you a hot minute. And they're pretty cheap, like $100. Beckett Simonin is another one. It's one of the lower end things. They look great. Again, the construction quality is not wonderful. Jordan, I know you have a recommendation. I'll leave that one for you. But just, kind of just take a look at the landscape and look at what's sexy right now. Look at pictures of celebrities and kind of get an idea for what colors are going on and what what fits are going on. Yeah, and then study the traditional style stuff.
Yeah, I would throw in there on the celebrity note, watch celebrities when they go on talk shows, because there's some things you see what they wear for shoots and photo shoots and stuff, and there's a bunch of safety pins there, and you realize that it doesn't even look that way on them when they really wear it. But when you watch to see how they're dressed on talk shows, and also like if you look at like celebrities who are, let's say, part of big franchise movies like Marvel Comics movies or things like that, there was a dresser, there was somebody who helped them pick this out, a publicist.
Her name is Ilaria Urbanati. She's the stylist for most of those Marvel guys.
See, there you go. So that's you pay attention to that because you look at people who have the similar body style, body shape, whatever that you do. And then for looking at ideas, pay attention to mannequins. Pay attention to mannequins, what's put on there. But remember, mannequins are always designed for one sort of kind of body type, and so look at like talk shows have always been like, oh, this is how they're dressed there. It wears well, and particularly if you're a magician, you got to stand and sit. Oh.
And Elliot, what I like about your look right now is it's very casual. You got the unbuttoned thing going on, obviously. If you put a tie on, it takes you up a couple extra notches, and so now you can show up at your event. And if you found out, oh, I overdressed a little bit, now you can unbutton without having an entire new outfit and still kind of fit in. Do you have any thoughts about that as well, as far as picking the outfit for your gig that you're going to? Because personally, for me, sometimes it's hard to know until you show up. You don't know what all the guests are going to be wearing. You don't know how fancy it's going to be, and so it's that's a little difficult thing to gauge. But I think it's important to kind of be prepared for multiple situations. Do you have any thoughts?
Yes. So if possible, you want to ask whoever's in charge if there's a dress code or what the expected dress code will be. And just a good tip across the board is be overdressed. Not extravagantly overdressed, but you want to kind of be wearing just a little bit nicer of whatever everybody else is in. Because then you're standing out in a good way, something that will make you feel more confident so you don't have to wear that stupid necktie, right? You can just go in, feel confident what you're wearing, knowing that it's a little nicer or fits a little better than most people that are going to be there. And that'll build up that confidence. And if you are just a little overdressed, well, maybe then you take your jacket off. Or, yeah, you take off your tie. Don't loosen your tie and leave it on, that's gross. Take it off or put it on right.
So, you don't want to show up to a Sunday brunch when everyone's in khaki shorts wearing a tuxedo and tails and a top hat and spats.
Yeah, you should probably just not do that generally because nobody dresses like that anymore. Unless you're going to the Met Gala, which is one of my all-time life goals is to go to the Met Gala.
Monocle.
What?
Monocle.
Yeah, with monocle. Yeah, monocle, watch chain. I'll go and do something and win medals to wear. Win.
Sometimes I wear two monocles.
Take over Prussia.
Yeah, exactly. I'll just steal the Prussian medals from a museum. Anyway,
this is wonderful advice, and I would say that too. Like coming from like South Florida, where we have like there's sort of like kind of and it's similar to California. There was like a party circuit where you go to Palm Beach, and understanding the different styles of tuxedo or carnival or whatever. And my friends that worked there, like they would bring they'd have in their car like because they'd show up sometimes at a gig and like this is a different. They'd have to have different kinds of formal wear, even knowing how to fit in. And you could tell who got those bookings and who didn't, basically because who knew how to dress for them.
Yeah, it's immensely important. Yeah. And if you put yourself out there as somebody who looks put together, people aren't going to balk at your rate as much. You're going to get quotes that say he's worth it. And that's what you want. You want a good reputation. And unfortunately or fortunately, if you enjoy it like I do, it helps. It really helps.
I'm still sticking to my blue jeans and tuxedo t-shirt. It's just
I'm wearing blue jeans right now.
Just all kinds of blue, man.
Okay, so that's a thing. All right, I want to touch on this just real quick. This is called a monochromatic outfit. It just means you pick the same color and then you just make it tonal. The key to doing that is mixing textures. So this is a linen silk cashmere thing. This is 100% cotton. Always make sure your shirts are 100% cotton. Anything less is garbage. This is silk. There's denim going on. I'm very uppity about it, Andrew.
I'm just thinking I know the title of this episode.
Yeah. So anyway, make it tonal and play with texture if you're going to do that. Just keeping in mind texture in general is a good thing. If you're in a warm place like Southern Florida, get you some linen. Get a seersucker suit. You can
I got
find
the hell out of there.
Oh yeah. Well,
I have a house that I watch on Drop Cam. That's fine. That's it. Just still there.
I just meant for the people watching or listening. Yeah. If you're in a warm place, you can find something.
Yeah. Just look at what you would wear if you were a British colonialist in the 19th century. So wear my little short pants. My walking stick.
And what are your thoughts on picking your outfit for your gig versus just having your one look that you always have? You have, this is my rhinestone jacket. I wear it always. This is always how I look.
If that's always how you look, stop. I don't care. I don't care that that's your character and that that's your creative choice. You look like a buffoon. So, magic, that's not magic anymore. It just isn't. Magic is much more experiential now, especially since it's in the zeitgeist. You have to connect with people more than ever. And that's kind of what we're seeing is because everything is so digital now, people want a human connection. That's why things like podcasts are booming, is because it's jokers sitting around just shooting the crap, having real, genuine conversations. So that's kind of what it's about. You can't just go and wear a bedazzled jacket and be like, I'm going to show you some miracles. And then it's ridiculous.
Andrew
it's absurd.
Hyde's bedazzled jacket he's been working on.
As long as it's tasteful.
Of course, nothing less.
So
nothing
let's see. I think I have one here. So Elliot, I'm gonna show you this. Tell me what you think about that.
So I know what you're going to
side story is that back in the day when I used to do the cruise ship magicians and all that, when you're supposed to wear these, because all the dancers are wearing flashy sequin outfits and all that. Remember when Majoke magazine came out? They did a parody of Magic magazine. I look on the cover and I look at the girl and I'm like, I own that sequin outfit. I lent it to a friend who was doing it on the ships, and now it just showed up in a. I mean, it was something I never needed again, but it was like when I did like a Japan run like that. And I was like, well, I know. They're like, nobody knows who this is. Like, yeah, I know who this is because that's a one of a kind that I went to the Siegfried and Roy costume designer to have made for me.
That's really funny. I actually just saw that magazine 2 days ago. I was looking through it.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me. And there is also a context for that. So that is a cultural thing. I'm just assuming I'm speaking mostly to Americans. But it is a cultural thing.
It's just too much. Not you third worlders. Wear your rags. It's fine.
Well,
so Jordan, when is the album going to drop?
Oh, right. So I've got my. This is like a bomber style flight jacket, right?
It's an all gold flight jacket.
All
for
gold,
audio listeners.
shiny gold, Jordan. And it's good because my name's Jordan Gold, and this is gold jacket. So that's good branding, right, Elliot? Is it? I mean, what do you think about this outfit choice right now? This is good. Is it good?
So I have to be honest with the viewers / listeners. I have worn that jacket, and it is insanely comfortable. But I hate it with every fiber of my being. And yes, your name is Gold, and it is very cute that you have a gold jacket.
You're being mocked. Welcome to Mock Club.
I feel comfortable about it in my jacket. I don't mind. It's all right.
And you know what? That's the most important thing is, there are people that wear their bedazzled jackets and they rock it, and that's their thing. I think they look ridiculous, but if they feel confident in it, ultimately that's what matters. If they can move through the world the way that they want to wearing that, then that's fine. And Jordan does that very well.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I think, wait, I don't know if that was a compliment or not.
Ruin your life. I don't care.
I think I'm going to just wear this for every episode from now on. It's just going to be my thing. I think I'm going to wear this for every, just going out. I'm going to wear it for every gig. I'm going to wear it to the castle. I'll have to sneak it in.
When people compliment you on it, like, well, Elliot Terrell told me to wear it, That's where I got the idea from.
He said if I feel confident, then it's fine.
So at this part,
I don't have a problem with any of that.
He's like, ruin your life. At this part of the show, sometimes we like to talk about a little bit of business advice. We've been pulling some stuff from I wrote a book years ago called 50 Ways to Make Money with Magic, and it was just a way to get people to think about magic in sort of different contexts. And I kind of pulled up a random thing here, which was one of the problems we often run into is you get asked to do a show, like a big show or something like that. Like, oh, you have like a big trick, because they think like if you put someone in a box, it's going to make the show 10 times better, which is not the case. But sometimes you need things like illusion, maybe you need sound gear or something like that. And if you have that stuff, you could consider letting other magicians rent that from you. Say, hey, I've got X, Y, and Z. If you need to do this, I have somebody who can use this or whatever. And I've known some magicians that have made pretty good money by just supplying other magicians with things like that. Not just props, but it can be props, but also sound gear and other stuff. And it's a great way to have that make money for you. So one of the things to think about of like, man, I got this corporate show or this thing coming up. Do I want to pay for this? Is, do you think you might be able to rent it to other magicians? Then maybe it's something worth getting. So just a thought.
Yeah, and I've rented stuff from a couple friends of mine for big shows that we put together for a company. We did for Diageo Spirits, we did a liquor themed show, and it was this custom thing. It was a one-off, and I didn't want to go out and buy some illusion boxes that I didn't have a place to store. So I called up some friends and said, hey, do you have a tip over trunk? Do you have a Blammo box? And actually, Jonathan Pendragon let us use his Blammo box for that show, and it was great. The show was great. The client was happy. It was the type of thing that, because of my experience with that client, they were going to hire me. They weren't going to hire somebody else just because they had the prop, and everyone ended up happy. And so, go for it.
Whose donkey costume did you use?
Whose donkey? Okay, so we were going to produce a donkey in that show because every trick was sort of cocktail themed. So we wanted to do a Moscow Mule, and I didn't want the classic magic trope of just a girl in a skimpy outfit. So I wanted to produce a donkey. Yeah, who does that really, right? So we wanted to do a donkey with a Russian hat on as the Moscow Mule. The company didn't want to work with animals for liability reasons, so then we wanted to do a two-person donkey costume. But then the two people that we wanted, who were going to reveal themselves, were going to be pillars in the cocktail community. They didn't end up wanting to do that, so we just thought, we'll do it really simple. We'll get a Blammo box. We know we can get the Blammo box.
I just love the call, like, hey, we have an idea for a great bit. Like, just don't make an ass out of me. Like,
right.
Oh.
Yeah, well, one of you, maybe. So then we figured we'd get like a guy bartender who has a lot of tattoos, and you put him in a skimpy outfit, just sort of ironically to make fun of the idea of using, a skimpy dressed lady. And we'll put him in a Russian hat with donkey ears. And he was down for it. He was excited. We were going to use him. It was going to be great. And he didn't fit inside the box. So we ended up going with a female bartender who everybody knew, who wore a leotard and a Russian hat and donkey ears. And we produced our Moscow Mule. And it was great. We had to go through this roundabout thing of just trying to be original. And then we realized there's kind of a reason that, these ladies go in the boxes is because they look good, but they also fit inside the boxes because they're smaller.
And children's inappropriate.
Yeah, well, animals are hard, to deal with. So that was the story of the Moscow Mule production. It's pretty fun.
Well, we're gonna excuse ourselves in a moment to go off to the secret session and work on the pass with Elliot teaching. Probably more teaching me than I'm sure Jordan's a master of it, and I may relate a story about a famous magician who taught me the noisiest pass I ever saw, but they claim they're world-leading expert on the pass, which apparently it needs to announce itself every time it's done. But I won't name names. But anyhow, let's do
We will
picks.
have secret sessions. We don't hold back.
Yeah,
so.
let's do picks. And so if we have any recommendations, anything you want to pick, and it could be anything and everything, my pick's actually going to be go watch Logan, the Wolverine movie. And the reason I say this is have you seen this?
It's so good. It's so good. Go ahead.
It's in Magic. Magic is a genre unto itself, but you can go anywhere you want within that genre. You can have Siegfried and Roy at one part of the spectrum, or Darren Brown all the way to Siegfried, to Penn and Teller or what. I mean, you have Darren Brown one end, Siegfried and Roy on the other end, and it's hard to even think that they're sort of in the same genre, but they are. And it just takes you to take a look at it and say, what can you do? Logan's been getting great reviews because it's a superhero story, but it's really a Western. It's a story that literally shows you it's paying homage to the movie Shane, one of the greatest Westerns of all time. And it's neat to see this genre that people like, well, how long are we, these superhero movies, how long are they going to run? I don't know. We had Doctor Strange, which was like the 12th whatever Marvel movie, and it was fantastic. It was a really well done movie. We just got the third Wolverine movie was finally a good Wolverine movie. And within Magic, you can think about that and say, okay, I have mystery, I have entertainment. How do I want to pursue that? What stories do I want to tell? Wolverine wasn't a huge story. It's a very, very simple story of helping somebody get to a place of safety, yet it's been touching people on a much deeper level. It's not the typical superhero story of we've got to stop the Skybeam before the bad thing happens, which is like almost all superhero stories. So Logan's my recommendation. Look at it from the point of view, just enjoy it. The second time you go see it, think of it as a magician and my character and whatever. What made him very interesting up front, I'll just say, is he's getting older and his powers are weaker. So he's not the super powerful Wolverine who can just shrug everything off. And that made him more interesting. As magicians, if we try to be the super extremely polished magician, we can do everything, you better hope you're on a stage like David Copperfield, which is where you would expect to meet somebody like that, or when you're doing your close-up or whatever, that you really come across as that competent kind of person. But introducing elements of challenge and failability makes you more interesting. So.
Well, it's almost like a perfect metaphor for what we were talking about a minute ago, which is the big spectacle is uninteresting now. It's so overdone. You want something that connects. So that's exactly what you were saying. That's kind of my Magic takeaway from Logan, and it is phenomenal. You have to see it. It's very good.
Jordan?
I'll go ahead and do my pick. My pick is How to Be a Man by Glenn O'Brien. He is the style guy for GQ. He's had a column in there for many, many years where he answers people's sartorial conundrums. This book is great, and it's very funny. It's really witty. And I just want to read you some of the chapters. So, how to not look stupid.
I'm taking notes.
How to have a style. To be or not to be in fashion, getting it perfectly wrong. But there's stuff on manhood, style, behavior, culture and society, wisdom. It's all a little tongue-in-cheek, but there's some really great wisdom packed in these pages. And I highly recommend it. It's one of my all-time favorite reads.
Excellent.
Awesome. I have 2 recommendations. One is go check out Elliot's podcast, Magical Thinking. It's awesome. Not just because I was on it, but because it actually is awesome. And not just because Elliot's on our show, but he has some amazing people. And just every week I get your email with the next person on your podcast. And it's so cool, the kind of people that you're getting on there. You had Larry Fong on. And then in it, can I say what happened in that episode?
Yeah, sure. People want to hear after you tell them.
Chris Kenner called in the middle and interrupted, and then Homer called Larry, and then David Copperfield called in the middle of the show, which is awesome. Like, when does that happen? So
Yeah,
Oh, wait,
so
I have a call right now. I'm not going to
I have technically had David Copperfield on my podcast.
Sorry, David.
That's true.
David,
True.
we're still talking to Elliot, and I know.
Oh, sorry. Chris is calling me right now.
We'll
Hold
get
on.
you on another time, David. Some other time. Don't worry. We'll book it. Oh, sorry. It's always asking.
Oh, look, it's Ricky J. Sorry, I gotta put the phone down.
So check that out. And then also I'm going to recommend the amazing Jonathan's book, which is Every Trick in the Book is the name of it. I got this years ago, and I just revisited it recently. It is super funny. It's got jokes, it's got pranks, it's got tricks, it's got all sorts of stuff.
It's evil. It is the Necronomicon of pranksters. It is. Jolly Ranchers in the Showerhead.
Chapter 3 is Cunning Stunts. I had to look at that several times to make sure I read that correctly. And it's
I'm sure
actually
you had to
really
practice this
fun.
before you said it on air.
I love old joke books. If you ever see an old joke book at a bookstore, buy it. Even if there's nothing actually funny in it. Like, some of them are just really terrible. My favorite terrible joke in a terrible old joke book was Beverly Hills is so posh that Chicken Delight has an unlisted number. It's like the worst non-relevant joke of all time, but there's these gems hidden in these old books. But the ones in Jonathan's book they're actually funny. So check them out.
I picked up a book in the Magic Castle library. I was looking at for newspaper or some sort of magic, and I read like the most racist routine you could ever imagine. And I was trying to figure out like, when was this appropriate? And I mean, it was just this like, what bookings were people getting calls on like your show? Okay, great. How racist is your show? Because we want really racist material in your show. Like, don't worry, I've just got the latest material. I've had the most insulting version of the newspaper terror you can imagine, or the rope trick or whatever, and just frightening, you know. And I remember like Robert Orban stuff, like, you know, like jokes about like Lana Turner and stuff when you're doing the rings and ooh la la and stuff. They're funny to read. Like, wow, this was probably like for like 10 minutes even back then. It was very funny and relevant. So cool. Elliot,
All right.
You're now a member of Magic Club.
Yes. Awesome. I'm very excited about it.
Fantastic. Let's bring this episode to a close.
I do want to mention that in the secret sessions, which you guys should definitely support on Patreon, I'm going to be teaching an unpublished version of the Half Pass that I created about 6 years ago.
Oh, sweet.
So,
Sweet. Very cool.
get into it.
It's gonna be fun.
Cool. So let's bring
I'm
it to
excited.
a
I'm
close.
excited to learn it. All right, we'll do the invisible gavel.
Thank you. Thank
And
you, Jordan. Brought to a close. I've got my twitch out of my eye now. And you can give your jacket back to Salt or Pepper. It doesn't matter.
oh yeah, that's right. We'll get rid of this now. I'm really warm in it.